Hello, my name's Nick Sharratt and I'm a children's author and illustrator. But I guess I think of myself first and foremost as an illustrator because drawing is my first love. I've drawn ever since I can remember, and all my books have got pictures in them. And I get to work on a big range of books, from books for toddlers all the way through to books for teenagers. So I'm going to show you a few of my books right now, starting off with the very youngest kind of books that I do, which are board books like this. This is a board book for a toddler on nice sturdy boards so that if they get bored looking at the pictures, they can always have a chew. And then I do lots and lots and lots of picture books too. Sometimes I do picture books that have been written by other people, like this one by Kes Gray called Each Peas. That was fun to illustrate. Anybody know this character? Her name's Daisy. And this is a favourite picture book that I illustrated for another writer. This is Pants by Giles Andre. I think you can tell from the cover it's going to be a very serious book, isn't it? And sometimes I write my own picture books. Here's one called Octopus Octopus. If I'm writing a story, I like to come up with a funny title, and humour is really important because I think nearly all the books that I come up with have funny stories. I hope they're funny stories, so a funny title is a good idea. So there's Octopus Octopus. And I work in a few different styles. Sometimes I do very simple pictures in my picture books, like for this book, Yawn, which always makes me want to yawn when I look at that cover. This was written by Sally Symes, and the pictures in it are quite simple, with no backgrounds, drawn in charcoal and then coloured in on my computer. But then again, I might do much more busy pictures, like in this picture book, You Choose Your Dreams, which is from the You Choose series. Perhaps you know these books. In this one, I did a picture that was much more complicated. Here it is. In fact, all the pictures in this book are complicated, but that was a particularly complicated machine to invent. And it took me much longer to draw than the Yawn pictures, I can tell you. What else do I do? Sometimes I do picture books that have unusual pages with flaps or holes in them, like this book. This book has got holes in the pages. It's called Don't Put Your Finger in the Jelly, Nelly. Let's just have a look. Don't put your finger in the jelly, Nelly. Now there is a hole here. I don't know if you can see it. It's quite well camouflaged. There's a hole there, but if I do this, I can put my finger in the hole. Don't put your finger in the jelly, Nelly. You might upset a jellyphant. An elephant made of jelly. Do you get it? A jellyphant. And then in this book, What's in the Witch's Kitchen, which I also wrote, there are flaps. Now lots of flap books exist, but the flaps in this book are quite magic because you can open them two ways. So what's in the fridge in the witch's kitchen? So if I open it this way, tasty cheese. And if I open it the other way, bats with fleas. And then I get to illustrate some very strange things on books sometimes, like this book, which is called the Gooey Chewy Rumble Plop book and is a fact book all about digestion. But on the cover, I had to incorporate into my illustration the most disgusting tongue. Can you see? It's a really slimy, sticky tongue. It feels just like a real tongue and it stretches. So that was a very unusual thing to add into a picture. What else can I show you? Oh yes, and then sometimes I get to illustrate for the very famous writer Jacqueline Wilson, who I'm sure you've heard of. And I have done lots and lots of books with Jacqueline, so lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of books with Jacqueline. I think I have illustrated about 50 books for Jacqueline altogether. And sometimes also my books get translated into other languages, like the book You Choose, which has gone into about 15 or 16 languages, I think. I haven't counted recently, but lots of languages, including this one. Can you see? I wonder if anybody knows what language that is on the cover. It is Korean. So that's the kind of range of books I do. Now, there's something that all those books have in common, and they all have characters in them. Sometimes they're animal characters, sometimes they're human characters. But my job as an illustrator is to draw characters that hopefully come to life in the reader's imagination. And we're going to have a go at drawing some characters right now. I've got some characters lined up to draw. I think we'll start off with a couple of characters from The Cat and the King, and I wonder if you can guess who the characters are going to be. It's not a very difficult question, is it? I think we'll draw the Cat and the King. But before we get drawing, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story and introduce you to the two main characters. This is how the story of The Cat and the King begins. Once upon a time there was a king who lived in a rather grand castle with his best friend, the cat. The king was very good at doing all the things that kings do, like walking on red carpets, making speeches, cutting ribbons, and balancing a heavy crown on his head. He had a dozen servants to do everything else. The cat was very good at making sure everything ran smoothly in the castle. He didn't say much because cats don't actually talk, but he had nice neat handwriting and a big supply of sticky notes on which he could write instructions. Everything ticked along nicely in the castle until an unfortunate incident that the cat could not prevent. Let's just say it involved a fire-breathing dragon. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, but the cat and the king had to move out of the castle and find somewhere else to live. They looked at lots of places and finally settled on number 37 Castle Close because the address had a nice, comforting ring to it. Number 37 wasn't as grand as their previous home, and number 37 didn't need to be as grand because the cat and the king had next to no furniture left and hardly any possessions. The king had his 4-poster bed, which since the unfortunate incident was now a 3-poster bed. He also had a trunk filled with bits and bobs, including his pyjamas and toothbrush, and his crown, which he never took off. The cat had his sticky notes, his felt-tip pens, his laptop, his Swiss penknife, and the royal money box. He also had his driving licence, which meant they were able to hire a van to take themselves and what little they had to the new house. The two of them stood outside the front door. The king had never needed to open a door before. There'd always been a servant to do it for him, and he wasn't sure how keys worked either. So the cat let them in. And that is how their life in Castle Close began. So let's have a go at drawing the cat and the king. We'll start off with the easier one, the cat. And this is how I would draw the cat. I'd give it 2 pointy ears and then an oval shape for its face. Right in the middle of the face, I'm going to draw a little shell-shaped nose and then make its mouth from 2 curvy lines like that touch the nose. 2 dots for eyes and 2 eyebrows. A bit of fur in each ear. And some whiskers. And now we're going to draw the body, and we'll make it nice and easy by putting the cat's arms behind his back. So 1 curved arm like that, 1 straight line going down, turn that into a leg with a paw at the end of it, little line for his tummy, and then draw another paw and a straight line coming down like that. And then draw his other arm behind his back on that side. And then he needs a tail. The king is a little bit more complicated, but if we do it step by step, it shouldn't be too bad. We'll start off with the bottom of his crown, a shape like that, and then the pointy section of the crown. And it's quite a fancy crown, so draw a sort of a cage shape on the top. Like that. And on the very top, a big precious stone, a jewel. Then draw his face, which is an oval shape this way round, like an egg. 2 ears, a U-shaped nose, and then a rather grand moustache made out of 2 halves like that. 2 dots for eyes, some eyebrows, and a nice smiley mouth that disappears behind his moustache. Now his robes. So they're a bit more complicated, but we'll do it slowly. Start off with a line coming down like that, so he looks a bit like a balloon. 2 curved lines for the collar of his robes. And then 2 more lines coming down, straight lines like that, which are the sides of the trim on the front of his gown. Draw 2 lines along the bottom like that, and then 2 sloping lines to join up with them like that. And now we can add some sleeves. So 1 arm down there, 1 arm up in the air because he's going to be waving. Add some fur on the ends of those sleeves. Some fur along the bottom, and you might need to make that line a little bit longer. It's fake fur, by the way, it's not real fur. The cat wouldn't let him have real fur. And now his hands. So I'm going to draw the thumb first, and then a row of 4 fingers like that. And then the same again, the thumb first, and a row of 4 fingers. And then 2 shoes. Oh, mustn't forget jewels in his crown. And finally, a little bit of shadow underneath both characters to stop them floating in the air and make them look like they're standing on a solid surface. And now it's time to colour in the cat and the king. I'm going to colour them in exactly as they are in the book, which is in different shades of red, from a very pale red through to a nice bright red for the king's robes and crown. But there aren't any rules about colouring in, so when you colour in your cat and the king, use any colours you like. Now, the most famous character I ever get to draw is, can anybody guess? It is Tracy Beaker. Here she is on the latest cover of The Story of Tracy Beaker, which was the very, very first book I ever illustrated for Jacqueline Wilson. I think of all the characters that I've illustrated for Jacqueline Wilson, Tracy Beaker is my favourite. She lives in a children's home with a group of other children, some of whom she gets on with fine and others she doesn't get on so well with. And what I like about Tracy is that she's just so believable. She's like all of us. She's a mixture of things. Sometimes she's very funny and happy and jolly and great to be with. And other times she can be very moody or angry or sad, just like all of us. And Jacqueline brings that to life so well in the story. And we're going to have a go at drawing Tracy ourselves. She's a good character to draw, and I bet you can draw some fantastic Tracys. So I would start off with Tracy's head, which is kind of like an egg shape with 2 ears either side. And right in the middle of that head, I'm going to draw a little nose like an upside down 7. 2 dots for eyes, round about the same level as the tops of the ears. That's a good place to put them. Nice big smile, and 2 happy eyebrows like that. Okay, the next thing to do is a neck, 2 lines for Tracy's neck, and then just draw the top of her jumper. Now I'm going to draw Tracy in a typical Tracy Beaker pose. Now she's quite a small girl, but she likes to make herself look as imposing as possible, and one way to do that is to stand with your hands on your hips. That makes you look bigger. So I'm going to draw Tracy with her hands on her hips. I'm going to draw 1 sleeve bending round like that, and add 4 fingers in a row. Don't need to worry about the thumb, because if you put your hands on your own hips, you'll probably put your thumb round the back, so we don't need to worry about the thumb. And then I'm going to draw the other arm over on this side like that, and add another row of fingers, and then finish off the top by drawing 2 lines down like that and 1 across the middle. And in the original story of Tracy Beaker book, I drew Tracy in a little skirt like this. So draw a skirt like that. I'm going to make Tracy stand in a particular pose. So I'm going to draw 1 leg going straight down like that, and put a shoe on the end of it and a sock. And her other leg, rather than just going straight down as well, I'm going to do sticking out to slightly jaunty angle like that to give her a little bit of attitude. So I'm going to draw that other foot there like that. And what's missing from Tracy? Her trademark hair is. So now's the time to add her hair. Give her lots and lots of wonderful black curls going all the way around her head. I have drawn Tracy hundreds of times, so I'm quite used to drawing her curls. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit untidy. In fact, Tracy isn't the tidiest girl in the world, so that's absolutely fine. Keep on drawing the curls till you get a really nice head of hair like this. Okay, nearly there. Just need to add a few curls coming down onto her forehead to give her a bit of a fringe. And I bet as you're adding the curls to your drawing, you're getting a really good Tracy Beaker feel. Right, there's Tracy Beaker. Now I think she needs just one more thing, because she looks like she's floating in the sky there. So I'm just going to add a little bit of shadow underneath her to make her look like she's actually standing on something solid. And now I'm going to add some colour. So Tracy is wearing a red top, a blue skirt and blue socks, lighter blue shoes, and when I draw fair-skinned characters, I quite often like to give them a bit of colour in their cheeks. Now, when I am illustrating books like The Cat and the King or the story of Tracy Beaker, there's something I always have to think about with my characters, and that is what expression to put on their faces, because they always need some kind of expression to show how they're feeling, whether they're feeling very happy or sad or angry or all sorts of different feelings. So we're going to use Tracy to try out some different expressions, and I'll give you a few little tips which might come in handy when you're doing your own character drawings. Okay, I'm going to go back to the Tracy that I drew earlier on, and I'm going to take away her eyebrows and her mouth, because when I create expressions on my faces, it's all about the eyebrows and the mouth. So the first expression I'm going to do is a sad expression, because unfortunately Tracy can't be happy all the time. So I'm going to give her a pair of sad eyebrows which curve upwards like this. And now I'm going to add a sad mouth. I'm just going to put it here to begin with, but if I move it down to nearer her chin, do you think that makes her look sadder? I do, so when I'm drawing sad faces, I tend to make the mouths a little bit lower in the face than I normally would for a happy face. Next, let's make Tracy look cross. So this time her eyebrows are going to point in the other direction. They're going to go down towards her nose like this. And I'm going to use exactly the same arched mouth for a grumpy expression. But this time, instead of moving it down, I'm going to move it up a bit closer to her nose. And I think that makes her look even more characterful and even more cross. Now, how about a puzzled or confused expression? It's amazing how often in the stories that I illustrate, the characters are a bit confused or puzzled about what's going on. So they don't know quite how they feel, and their mouth kind of reflects that. So I'm going to add a mouth that's half happy and half sad in a sort of an S shape. And the eyebrows don't know what to do either. One of them wants to go right up and the other one is trying to go down. So I'm going to do them at different angles, and hopefully Tracy looks really rather bemused and puzzled there. And to finish off with, I'm going to do two different kinds of surprised. In both cases, her eyebrows are going to shoot up to the top of her head, touching her fringe. And if it's a nasty surprise, a bit of a shock, then I'm going to draw her mouth like this, with a curved top and a flat bottom. So Tracy's had a bit of a shock there. But not all surprises are nasty surprises. So if it's a nice surprise, all I do is turn that shape round the other way round, make it flatter at the top and curved at the bottom. There you go. So there are a few expression tips for you that I hope you'll find handy. And it just so happens that Tracy Beaker is on the cover of this book, How to Draw the World of Jacqueline Wilson, that I wrote. And obviously it gives you more tips on how to draw Tracy and lots of other characters from Jackie's books. But as well as that, there are helpful hints on how to draw vehicles and buildings and weather and food and clothes and even space aliens. So you might find that useful if you're looking for some more drawing tips. I hope you've had fun during this session, and I'm sure that you've done some fantastic drawings too. Happy drawing, happy reading, and I hope I'll see you again sometime. Bye-bye.